Today on the Autism Channel World News, an interview with a nonverbal autistic author who is advising developers of new technology to help him and others like him use technology more proficiently. The teacher who lowered her autistic student into a trash can gets a hearing to see if she'll keep her job. Caesarian section in autism may not be linked the way we thought it was. And the death of controversial autism doctor Jeffrey Bradstreet. Was it a suicide or murder? A website tries to raise $25,000 to investigate, but withholds a valuable piece of information. I'm Nancy Quinones with Carl Newbiel and Tim Yancey, and this is the Autism Channel World News for Saturday, June 27th, 2015. The Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law 25 years ago this July 26th, and the retrospectives are beginning. One of them is a project funded by AT&T, working with New York University to find technological solutions to disabilities. Carl Newbiel has the story.
It's called the Connectability Challenge, and it could mean money for several lucky developers. Here's how it was announced.
I'm a person with ambition.
Goals. Dreams.
Challenges.
I take my challenges head on.
With support, I persevere.
And strive to
Create.
Connect.
engage and give back.
AT&T and the Ability Lab of New York University introduced Connectability, a global competition for developers, engineers, and makers to harness everyday technologies that adapt the environment to millions of people living with disabilities.
I challenge you. I challenge you.
I challenge you.
This is gonna be fun. Try to keep up.
Help us help millions.
Visit the website connectability.challengepost.com for resources, rules, and technical briefs. $100,000 in cash prizes will be awarded. Submission deadline 5 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, June 24th, 2015. Winners will be announced Sunday, July 26th in New York City. That's the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The AT&T NYU Connectability Challenge. #Connectability.
The 4 people featured in that video are all people with disabilities and challenges that specialized technology could assist. They'll help evaluate the proposed solutions submitted in the phase of the contest that ended this week. Then they'll work with the developers that win cash next month. One of the 4 consultants in the video is Paul Kotler, who has autism and apraxia, which means his body doesn't always cooperate in forming words and phrases. His article in the magazine Wired is an enlightening look at how technology, and particularly rapid changes in technology, doesn't always help people. He joins us today via Skype along with his mother and the piece of technology he's currently using to communicate with. We sent him our questions in advance because of the difficulties he faces in communicating answers to complex questions quickly. Paul, thank you for joining us today. Do you know how AT&T identified you as someone they wanted to vet these applications and work with developers, and why did you agree to do it?
Okay.
As an advocate for the community, I didn't hesitate when asked to be part of this challenge. I was thrilled to hear that a company finally wanted to hear our side and create new technology based on our actual needs, making us feel included. I'm excited for the next phase of this challenge and to see all the developers have created based on our feedback. It has been great being a part of something so influential and impactful. I have support of many people in this process and have lectured at NYU in the past, so individuals there have some idea who I am. You just have to put yourself out there.
Your Wired article quite brilliantly describes the double-edged sword of technological advancement. Do you think the future will be more in the direction of mass appeal apps that have accommodation built into them, or the rise of an alternate world of apps designed especially for particular disabilities, challenges, or physical limitations?
What AT&T and the NYU Ability Lab are doing is revolutionary. Combined, we are paving the way for how tech is being created, with input of not only engineers but people whose lives will be drastically improved from these new technologies. Moving forward, I hope other companies follow in our footsteps. We have created something special and I'm happy to be a part of it. I think this is going to require us to speak up. We have to have our voices heard in order to be able to get people to understand our needs. Self-advocacy is important. It is always common that mass appeal is more attractive to big companies because these are things that can bring in more money. I think sometimes that working with smaller developers will be key as we move forward. However, there have been some great things done that can be used on very popular devices like my iPad.
Can you give us an example of one of the things you've done as an advisor to this challenge in the design phase that you found particularly rewarding?
She's coming. She's coming.
Being able to give feedback to developers during the collaboration sessions to better guide them while they create new tech has been an amazing experience. The questions we raised and the solutions they have found as a result of our sessions will without a doubt lead to the creation of new tech products that I am sure will be implemented and used to improve the lives of millions. I have really been able to talk about sensory needs. I have been able to talk about need for feedback regarding anxiety. I have been able to get people to understand that I still have something to say even with typing as the primary way I best express myself.
Thank you, Paul, for joining us. Next month, on the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, Paul will join us again and talk about whose project was selected and why.
In April, Mary Catherine Persley became widely known in the autism community when she held an autistic boy upside down and lowered him into a trash can. She was a special education teacher at Cobb County Schools in the Atlanta, Georgia metro area. She now faces felony first-degree child cruelty charges. At a hearing on Monday, she said her student was screaming and upset. She was trying to shake out the grouchy. Her attorney said she often used characters like Oscar the Grouch to help calm special education students. This hearing is to determine if she is to be dismissed from Cobb County Schools. Meanwhile, the criminal charges against her are being prosecuted separately. When we return, a controversial autism doctor is found dead. Tim Yancey has the details. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is the Autism Channel World News. I'm Nancy Quinones.
What we see, experience, feel, is it real? Can there really be a theory of everything? There's one man in South Africa who may know. He's autistic, and he spent the last 25 years of his life asking complicated questions that much of the world has started to notice. Put on your thinking cap, because here, exclusively on the Autism Channel, is amateur quantum physics theorist Cornelius Van Eck. But he'd like you to call him Bushy.
Dr. James Jeffrey Bradstreet was a controversial figure in life. He was found dead in a river from an apparent gunshot wound. His death appears to be as controversial as his practice and his autism research. Tim Yancey has a report on this continuing story.
To hundreds of families, Dr. Bradstreet brought them hope, and the memorials on several websites, Age of Autism and SafeMinds.org among them, praise him as a leader and advocate. But sheriff's investigators in North Carolina see him as a man with some severe problems. And that is why, along with the physical evidence that they have recovered in the case, they are treating his death as a suicide. That's not a final conclusion, but they believe it's the most probable theory that they're working. They found the gun, they found the bullet, which appears to match the gun, and they're waiting on the U.S. ATF labs to tell them more. The body is being autopsied at Wake Forest University. It may take several months for the forensic pathology report to be released. Dr. Bradstreet's wife grew up in the Rutherford County area, and they regularly vacationed there. Several websites, however, most of them in the alternative autism treatment community, are asking if Dr. Bradstreet was murdered. They cite the cause of death, a bullet to the chest rather than the head, as something they consider atypical in suicide cases, particularly for a doctor. But in the investigation, Rutherford County Sheriff's detectives Jamie Keever discovered something very few people knew. The week of the doctor's death, his office had been raided by the FDA. That agency claims the raid was conducted at the request of the U.S. Attorney's Office, but will say no more. The U.S. Attorney's Office has refused to reveal to the media why the doctor's office was raided. Dr. Bradstreet was involved in several controversial therapies. He was the U.S. representative for a stem cell procedure actually conducted in Kiev, Ukraine. But that company, ImCell, says the doctor never told them there was any problem with his representing that procedure, nor did the U.S. government ever contact ImCell. That leaves the drug GCMAF, which Dr. Bradstreet was reported to have been using to treat autism. One source has indicated that drug and records regarding its administration to patients was the reason for the raid. The U.S. Attorney's Office has denied comment on that allegation. Meanwhile, Dr. Bradstreet's brother, Tom, has started raising money. Quoting his crowdfunding page at the site GoFundMe.com, he claims he wants to find answers to questions leading up to the death of Dr. Bradstreet. But a lot of the possible answers being considered by investigators aren't mentioned on that website. We contacted Tom Bradstreet, who refused an on-camera interview. So we asked him why information about the FDA raid, which the Sheriff's Office considers so important in the potential determination of suicide, wasn't even shared with the funders. He told us that he had only heard rumors about the raid. But the raid has now been reported by Joshua Sharp at the Gwinnett Daily Post, the local newspaper to Dr. Bradstreet's now closed office, and has now also been confirmed by the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FDA. As of Friday evening, Bradstreet has raised about 3/5 of the $25 grand. We'll continue to follow this developing story as new information becomes available.
Carl Newbiel has reported extensively on pregnancy issues responsible for an increased incidence of a later autism diagnosis. A study published Wednesday suggests we take a deeper look into caesarian section and autism. There may not be a direct relationship after all. This new study suggests that other unknown genetic or environmental factors are causing both the higher incidence of autism and the C-sections. It was reported June 24th in JAMA Psychiatry. That's the Autism Channel World News for Saturday. For our news team and everyone at the Autism Channel, join us again as we continue to unlock the wonders of autism. See you next time. I'm Nancy Quinones.